I got a big mouth. Can't help it. I talk from my heart. I'm real. You know what I'm saying? Whatever comes, comes. But my controversy problem. And it's not my fault. I'm trying to find my way in the world. You know, I'm trying to be somebody instead of just make money off everybody.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? This your man Marcus A. Brown once again. If y'all coming into the chat, please like the video. Also share it. I would greatly appreciate that. But please like the video as y'all coming into the chat or as y'all watching this on a replay. Shout out William Hand. He was the first one in here. Hey, no, I don't think he died. I'm gonna speak on that in a minute. But I want to share my thoughts real quick on the topic of bringing jobs and resources to the so-called Black community. This is one of the major demands you'll hear from a lot of protesters, a lot of community activists. And for those of y'all that's watching from Chicago, just giving y'all a reminder, be mindful of the traffic in your daily commutes. Today is August 2nd, 2018. We got, it's always somebody messaging me when I'm live streaming. But yeah, today is August 2nd. We got Lollapalooza going on downtown, which is always a traffic jam. That's always a busy night for emergency response workers responding to fights and drug overdoses and all type of shit. We got the Cubs game going on up north, which that's consistently crowded with drunk baseball fans. And then we have another protest, this time on the north side, on Lakeshore Drive, where the protesters plan on evening out the inconvenience from the south side to the north side with their demonstrations for raising awareness on things like getting Rahm Emanuel out of office, you know, stopping the violence in the hood, bringing jobs and resources to the hood. And I guarantee there'll be people out there with like anti-Trump rhetoric and pro-illegal immigration rhetoric, socialist rhetoric, and all of the other 31 flavors of social justice talking points. But I want to focus on the bringing the jobs to the hood part, because this thing in particular, that really resonates with me in a way that I don't hear a lot of other people talking about. So what are my thoughts? Do I think more economic opportunities in urban areas will be a good thing? Absolutely. I don't really argue with the fact that jobs help. And to clarify, there's already jobs in the so-called urban areas or the inner city streets, whatever euphemism you want to use. But I'm going to refer to what people are talking about. What they really talking about is the toughest parts of Chicago. They saying bring jobs and resources to the most roughest, low-income, high-crime areas of Chicago. So will more jobs help in those rough parts of town? Possibly. But, you know, it only has the potential to help people that actually want to work. I don't know why people keep ignoring the reality that not everybody wants a job, and you can't force people to work a job. I don't care how many jobs you bring to the hood. Look, man, I grew up telling plenty of friends and family about who's hiring. I didn't have, I don't know how many jobs over maybe since I was 17. But I done told a lot of people about who's hiring, and what did they do? That shit went in one ear and out the other. So, you know, some people turn their noses up at the idea of getting a job. I'll never forget, when I was in truck driving school, and I'm speaking like from my personal experience. When I was in truck driving school, I had a friend of mine. He was a good friend of mine. We still friends to this day, and he know who he is. We was on a bus stop, and the nigga made fun of the fact that I wanted to be a truck driver. And you know, he would say shit like, "Oh man, your ass finna be breaking your back for these companies. You finna be working in a dirty ass garbage truck, boy. Your ass finna be out here ugly as hell, smelling like skunk ass and motherfucking garbage and shit." And guess what? You know, I'm gonna be honest. He was right. He was right, bro. I've driven dirty ass garbage trucks before. I've driven tow trucks where I had to pull cars out of ditches and clean up accidents and shit like that. I've driven refrigerator trucks where I had to make deliveries at 2 and 3 in the morning. I've fucking delivered liquor. I did pickups and delivery for Southern Wine and Spirits. I had to deliver liquor to corner stores in the hood in the middle of the day with niggas standing outside on the corner everywhere just watching me. That's some dangerous shit. So, you know, what my man was saying, he was pretty much right. It was a sucky job, but I did it. And you know what else? I made way more money doing that shit. I made way more money than this friend of mine ever made. I've traveled more. I've experienced more. And this ain't the best thing to brag about, but I've fucked up more money than this nigga has ever even been able to make, pursuing a rap career or working a dead end job and living beyond his means. So my point is, what do we say to these type of people? What do we say to people who, no matter how many jobs is in the hood or no matter how many opportunities cross their path, they don't want the shit? What do we say to people who think working a 9 to 5 is lame, or they think that they're above all of that and they be better off dribbling a ball or making drill music? All right, yo, shout out Yes Jonas, bro. What's going on? Six, bro. Hey man, hey, that I forgot the term you used, but hey, y'all subscribe to Yes Jonas, man. He was dropping. We put the traveling topic to the side. We gonna always go back to that, but he was dropping some real deep philosophy yesterday. I'm gonna damn near put that link in the description. I'm gonna put it in the card at the end of this video, bro. That last video you did, bro, that was legendary to me. I gotta make that one of my favorites, bro. That was what's up. But yeah, I'm talking about my thoughts on the talking point that's going on in Chicago about bringing jobs and resources to the community. What was I saying? Oh, what do you say to people who just don't want the jobs? But another point I wanted to make, you got to make it appealing for these companies to want to do business in the hood to begin with, in the rough areas. Why would any well-paying company want to set up shop in a high crime, low income area? Like, think about that. I hear the protesters' talking points. It's just like any other pretty much leftist ideology where they use a language that makes the shit sound good and it makes you sound like an asshole for disagreeing with it. But when you really start peeling back the layers of that onion and pointing out inconsistencies or things that they don't want to acknowledge, then the argument falls apart and they either deflect or they start attacking you or making you look like the bad guy. I don't like that feeling, y'all. I hate getting on here sounding like the bad guy or the Uncle Ruckus or the person who's like always negative. I'm not being negative. I'm being a realist, and I'm speaking in this particular video from experience. I could talk about this because I see this shit all day, every day. I've seen this for years. So again, what are my thoughts on bringing jobs to the hood? If you bring jobs, that helps. I understand why people think it's a lack of jobs in the hood. If you look at most inner cities, not just Chicago, but most of the convenience stores, the corner stores, the restaurants, they're not black owned, or they're not necessarily employing people in that community. That's the issue. I don't care whether it's something is black owned or not. I want to know, are they employing people? And I've been to these beauty supplies. I've been to these liquor stores. I tell you what they do. They hire the black ratchet females that they might be paying in different ways. They'll hire them before they hire a brother. They'll hire them before they hire somebody like me or you. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. My last thought is this: people shouldn't want to only work jobs in the hood. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be jobs in the hood, but I'm saying you shouldn't even just want to work in the hood. That's my personal opinion. A lot of us need to get the fuck out of the hood. Like I didn't learn or open my mind to certain opportunities until I actually left my neighborhood. When I was 16 and 17, I was applying for jobs in the hood. I was applying for Radio Shack and grocery stores and shoe stores, video game stores, all of that. But maybe that was a blessing in disguise that I didn't get those jobs. I I want to tell y'all this. I got a funny story. And it's silly. It was silly of me looking back on it. I remember I was applying for a Family Dollar on 71st and Paxton. This was like when it just opened up, and I had my resume together. I was still in high school. This might have been my junior or senior year, and they were considering hiring me. And I made it through the little interview process, and they had me do this personal, those little personality tests. And they told me, like, this is not a pass or fail test. This is just something to kind of gauge your personalities for us to get a better understanding of how you think and, what are your opinions on certain things. I'm like, all right, cool. I should have known better. But when they told me that it's not a pass or fail test, man, I was like 16 or 17. I just answered the questions honestly. So they ask you questions like, you know, what's more important to you, getting to work on time, or being like, I don't know how to. They ask you personality questions, right? But this is the point I'm getting at. They asked this one question where they was like, you witness a coworker stealing something in the store that you work at. So I'm at work and I see somebody stealing in the store that I'm working at. This is a coworker of mine. The question was this: do you A, confront the person that's stealing and tell them like, hey, stop doing that shit? Or do you B, tell somebody else, like you tell a supervisor? Or do you C, the option C is it's none of my business? My dumb ass put C, bro. I put C. It ain't none of my goddamn business. And I was answering honestly, you know, because I've had other little part-time jobs, like fake community service jobs, where I had experience with that type of scenario before. And from my experience, a lot of times people hate the dude that follows the rules. So people hate the dude that follows everything by the book. And I was able to pick up on that at an early age, but I also didn't realize that, you know, the book answer or the answer on the test ain't necessarily um the way things play out in reality, and the way that things play out in reality, that's not necessarily what they want you to put on the test. So make a long story short, as soon as I put C, the motherfucking machine started going off and it was like, printed out some shit. And it said, please discontinue this interview. So in so many words, they was like, oh, no, you can't, no, you fired, bro, before you was even hired. So I didn't get the job. And maybe a year or two later, that same store got robbed. You know what I'm saying? This is my point. I look at that as a gift and a curse. It was a curse because I was damn near dumb as hell. You know, I didn't know not to answer that question that way. But it was a gift because I moved on to apply for other jobs. I learned from that experience, and I wasn't working in the trap. I don't have kids, but if I did have kids, bro, I'm telling y'all, I wouldn't want my kids working in the neighborhood, not in a storefront or in some type of in front of a business where it's niggas standing outside every day. Not where they got to worry about getting caught up in a crossfire of some gang wars or motherfuckers looking at them like they got money, so now they getting robbed because they got to close at work or they got to, you know, work in some type of risky situation where they handling valuables, and you know it ain't nothing for a motherfucker to run up and say, let me get that about you. So I don't know, man. That's my thoughts on it. The thumbnail, going back to what let me scroll back up. Back up to what William Hand said. This individual, I put a link in the description. This young man just this week got shot up real bad in Hyde Park. They call it in Hyde Park, but it was on 47. So if you ask me, that's no longer the safe part of Hyde Park. To my knowledge, he's not. No, he didn't pass away. He just got shot up real bad. He's in critical condition, and some other people got shot too. But this made the story. This made the headlines because this was, you know, allegedly a good kid. He was on his way to a summer job. He was on his way to a summer program, and everybody had good things to say about him. I mean, I guess that don't mean everybody got something good to say about everybody, but I could see this happening to me, or I could see this happening to a relative of mine, or I could see this happening to the so-called good kid. You on your way to work a summer job and motherfuckers shooting, and you get caught up in that shit because you working in the hood. Now, I'm not blaming the victim. My condolences to this brother and his family. But, you know, it kind of goes to my point. I'm not saying that we should just starve the community of any type of jobs or opportunities. But me personally, I don't want to work in the hood for those particular reasons. Shout out Farrell Edmondson. Marcel Wallace, he say black laziness and the stereotypes is true. In many cases. Now, like I said, you put opportunities in the hood, there are gonna be a few people, but those are the minority. There'll be a few people that will take advantage of that. But overall, you can't get people that don't want to work. I don't care how many jobs you put right in front of them. Just like the whole anti-gun argument, the anti-violence. It don't matter how many gun laws you create. That's only affecting people like me and you if you're a law-abiding citizen. That's making it more inconvenient for us to exercise our Second Amendment rights, but it's making it easier for the criminal elements of society because they not following the laws anyway. They don't give a fuck how many rules you put up. That shit don't faze them. So the only people that's left with guns are the criminal elements of society and the tyrannical government. So like the police state, basically. So do you really want to? And I ask protesters that, like, do you believe in the Second Amendment right? You know, it depends on who you talking to. You got some super woke folks that say that the Constitution is dead and gone. I don't really dispute that. I think that it has been diminished over time. But then my question is this: if you don't believe in the Constitution, if you feel like the Constitution is a thing of the past, then what's this freedom of speech shit you talking about? Ain't no freedom of speech because ain't no Constitution. But if it is a freedom of speech, then you got to understand that trying to attack and diminish the Second Amendment, that opens the door to diminish every other amendment, including the First Amendment. They go hand in hand. Ain't no freedom of speech if you can't protect yourself. But like I said, man, you can't make anybody get a job. I don't care how many jobs you bring to the hood. It's jobs hiring right now, bro. Homeland Security is hiring. Look, Homeland Security is hiring. You go to usajobs.gov and look at all these government jobs that's hiring all over the country, even outside of the country for those who qualify. Okay, centerline drivers, they always hiring. I've told plenty of people about them. If you got a CDL, A or B license, and you don't want to go over the road, you can get lots of temp work jobs from them. I've worked for them on and off for almost 5 or 6 years now. And that's one of them temp job for trucker type setups where you could work for a few months and say, you know what, I want to take a few months off. You could work and stop working and work again. That's how much traffic they got going on. They need people all the time and they always looking for additional drivers. So I mean, there's opportunities out there. There's companies, if you don't have a CDL, you can train with companies. They'll pick you up. They will literally send a ticket to your crib, bro. I've had companies send me train tickets to my family house when I was living with family. Catch the bus or the train out there, they would train you and get you on the road for at least, if you're willing to get them, maybe 2 years of your life. Why is that so hard? Why are people so against that, but they willing to take thousands of dollars in debt on college degrees that don't guarantee employment at the other end of the graduation stage? And that's if you major in studies that have no demand in the labor market. Like, that shit is crazy to me. The Chicago police was just hiring like crazy. A lot of the airlines, I always talk about airports. Airlines is hiring entry-level workers, ramp agents, customer service positions, security positions. These are jobs that's not in the hood, but that's the point. It's to get you out of the hood and introduce you to the rest of society where all of that hood mentality shit don't apply. In many cases, it's just 1 or 2 bus rides or a train ride away from the hood anyway. So it ain't like people can't access like you can't get to these areas. Shit, if you could catch the bus to a protest but can't catch the bus to a job, then, you know, to me, that just speaks volumes as to where your priorities really are. I'm gonna say this too, and I'm gonna check out the chat. I'm gonna get out of here in a little while. I ain't want to make this too long, but shout out to brother Enoch of Hip Hop Detox. He has extended an invitation to me to join him in a roundtable discussion on WVON Talk Radio. That's later tonight. I'll post more information on maybe Facebook and in the description once I get the date. I'm sorry, the time. This is tonight. But I watched some of the live streams on Facebook. I told them that I was willing to sit in and listen. I speak if they ask me, but I already know I'm going to be playing devil's advocate. I'm going to pretty much be the oddball in the room. But the same thing I'm saying here is the same thing I'm going to say there. If asked, when they bring up the bringing jobs and resources to the community, I'm not against that. But I always look at the other side of the coin on what are we going to do with the elements of society that cannot be reasoned with the people that don't give a fuck about no jobs. That's kind of my question. And like I said, I always ask these people, like, who's hiring right now? Like, do you know who's hiring? Because a lot of times people be protesting for jobs. They not even looking for jobs. Like, if you ask them who's hiring right now, or if you, no, I'll give you a better one. If you ask them, where have they applied? What's the last job you applied for? Or what's the last job that you told other people to apply for? They can't answer that. It's not something they want to answer because they don't really they just out there protesting just to be protesting. They're not actually looking for work. If y'all know of any jobs that's hiring right now, drop it in the chat. Drop it in the comment section, especially if it's in Chicago. Because if I get on this radio show tonight, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to let people know, like, hey, Blase is hiring right now. How many people on the corner are you telling that to? How many people in your family are you telling that to? You sitting up here trying to block highways and get on your soapbox and talk about we need jobs, and y'all ain't even spreading the words about the jobs that is hiring. So if y'all know people that's hiring, let me know. Y'all watch my Snapchat. I'm always Snapchatting random job opportunities and shit. That's the conversation that needs to be had. The resources, I'm not against that. But I feel like that's just a diversion from another element. That's an excuse or deflection to get away from more important concerns in the so-called black community. Dollar will say those unmotivated people don't define black people. They are the fringe. We should be careful with that. I agree with you. I mean, I'm an example. I just watch whatever that actress chick talking about all black people live in fear. I'm like, bitch, you ain't talking about me. I ain't living in no fear. I'm living in fear of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, but I ain't worried about it in terms of every black person is gonna harm me or every police officer is gonna harm me. You're right, bro. The unmotivated people don't define black people, but they're the silent. No, I'm sorry, they're the loudest minority. So we may be the silent majority, but they're the loudest minority. What do I mean by that? Black people may not be violent and willing to shoot you over stepping over their shoes and stuff. But why do we get that bad rep? Because that's what's displayed in entertainment. That's what we glorify. That's what we allow to continue without speaking out against it. Same with the whole black ratchet female argument. There's a lot of good women out here. There's a lot of black women that are professional, that are prestigious, that are not ratchet. But what do? They silent on the ratchet bitches. They don't call them out on their bullshit. And they get mad at guys like us for doing that. So what it does is it enables the loudest people in the room, which is the not so not such a good look. They the people with not the good look. They the ones that get the most attention, and the everyday average Joes and Janes like us, we don't really we gotta make our own reputations for ourselves. Dollar will say, why can't we make money in our dangerous areas if others do it? Because black people don't respect other black businesses. Black people don't respect other black people. I can ask that another question. Why? You're right. Why do Asians, goddamn it, Arabs, why do all these other people come into the neighborhood and we don't try to argue with them over prices? Why do we allow them to only hire bitches that they fucking or ratchets that they can pretty much underpay and work long hours? Am I saying we should go in there and riot and chase them out of the hood? No, but if you don't have to shop with them, why? Look, bro. I ain't bought shit out of a Arab corner store in I don't know how long. And I know part of that is because I can afford to drive down the street to another store. But this whole thing about being upset with other people making money, we ain't getting nowhere by doing that. If you want to support a black-owned business, I guarantee you those black-owned businesses are getting their products and services from non-black-owned suppliers. So somewhere down the line, a lot of people are just worried about the hands that they touching. They worried about walking in the store and seeing a black face. But they don't know if that black face is paying rent to a non-black face. Or maybe they paying that rent to a black-owned face, and that's going to a neighborhood that ain't the black community. Or it ain't the hood, basically. So I mean, maybe I'll look at it a little differently. It's a shift in perspective, but I don't sit up here and be worried about who is making money off the hood as much as what are we doing with the money that we do have. That's the part that makes me the coon and the sellout and all this other stuff. Dollar will say we can get bulletproof glass too and open up the same businesses as others. Go right ahead, bro. I'm not opposed to that. I mean, you made the point, not me, that you're gonna need bulletproof glasses. If it's so much black love out here, you shouldn't need that. But you made that point, not me. Again, I'm not against black-owned businesses. I'm not against bringing jobs to the hood. I'm just saying, what are we gonna do with the elements of society that says, "Fuck your job, nigga. Fuck you in that lame ass uniform. I'll beat your ass." Is you trying to bat as loud or not? What are you gonna say to them? What are you gonna do when you open up your black business and you got niggas standing in front that you know ain't got shit else to do? You know you're gonna have conflict with them if you tell them get the fuck out of here. And you can't hire everybody. And like I said, some people you can hire that may not want to be hired. Bro, it goes hand in hand. He said, Dollar will say, we are gonna ignore them and keep arresting them. Wait, ignore them and keep arresting them. Arrest what? The criminal elements that I'm talking about? Eclectic Tyrone says, if it has bulletproof glass, I don't want to buy from them regardless of who owns it. I agree with you. I agree with you, bro. And you know what? Like I said, that was an experience. That was a standard that I developed over the course of shopping outside the hood. Some people would say that's a bad thing. They would say you're not keeping that in the black community. How so? I mean, you don't know how many black people I've paid. You don't know how many donations I've made to charitable donations I've made to organizations that I agree with. Dollar Will says this. Richard Pryor said, "Thank God we got prisons." That's a whole nother problem. I don't know what you mean by that, but that's a whole nother problem, the prison industrial complex. I got a huge issue with justice reform. That may be like one of the only talking points with the typical social justice warrior that I would agree with. But come on, bro. What? Dollar Will, I'm gonna try to get out of here in a minute. If you want to join or something, I post a hangout link. I'm just trying to understand, what are you getting at? Because on one hand, you're saying we should be able to open these businesses in the community, and then I ask you, what are you gonna do about the elements of society that do not want a job, and you saying we'll lock them up? I mean, you know, a lot of these guys get locked up and get right back out. But then on the other hand, are you saying you in favor of, like, ain't no reaching them, so you saying lock them up? You sound like one of them Caps members. Like if you go to them Caps meetings on the South Side and it's just a bunch of old people tricking on young dudes, but the police ain't doing shit about it, and the old people ain't doing shit about it, because a lot of times that's little Kiki daughter, or that's Thelma grandson and shit like that. All right, I'm gonna get Dollar Will in here. We can chop it up for a little minute. Hold on 1 second. Pharaoh Edmondson say, when you are helping black people, you have to help them from a distance. Yeah, I mean, I view that. I agree with that, not just for black people, but for all people in general. I don't care if you black, white, Mexican, Chinese, whatever. There's gonna be parts of a population that are looking to improve themselves. They believe in upward mobility. They believe in being upstanding, contributing members of society. Then you're gonna have the elements that you can't help. So I don't care what color you are. Some people you can help, and other people you just gotta keep it moving. Or you gotta. I don't know I'm not ashamed to say I don't know the answer to that. Some people I don't know how to help their ass. I don't think there's any helping them. But you can't just be can't just wipe them off the face of the earth either. All right, so let me know if that link work, y'all. Let me post it again. Anybody want to join real quick? I gotta get out of here in another another 30 minutes. So if y'all want to join real quick, I got the link in the chat. Go Saint says, it's like the movie line, help me help you. Exactly. Basically, I mean, you can't help everybody. How do you help somebody that don't want to be helped? Or how do you help somebody that doesn't necessarily see your line of logic as logical? Ain't no way to really get through to y'all talking two different languages. I know dudes that I've been close enough to them to actually get them an idea of my income at certain jobs, and that still wasn't interested in them. They still didn't care. Yo, what's going on, Dollar Will?
What's happening, bro?
Peace, bro. Everything good. Just I'm just trying to get an understanding of what you were saying. Let me just keep saying this. Like, I am not against bringing jobs and resources to the community, but I always pay attention to the people that I notice saying that, and as I start talking to them as I begin to engage with them, I realize that they may not be as interested in the jobs as they claim.
Let's see. I'm getting some feedback. I think you gotta mute your YouTube.
Okay, I'll mute mine.
Yeah. A lot of people saying bring jobs to communities. You can't put everybody making that statement is not coming from the same philosophical place. Let me just say right out front, I'm one of those liberal hotep or pro-black. So you put me in that category, okay? In a sense, but I have issues with them too. I'm also everybody knows I'm a stock trader, so I'm all I've run businesses, so I'm all about being entrepreneurial. So we've come to a point now where people think that being liberal means you can't be pro, entrepreneurship and self-improvement, and that's a recent thing. That's not the history of it. But anyway, the people. The destructive elements in our community are just that. They got circumstances, of course, that lead them to that. But hey, we got, I'm not trying to get, not going to go too far down this road, but we got people growing up right next to each other. One person tries to live, I guess, has a sense of what we would call morality, and they're not trying to rob, cheat, and steal from nobody, and they trying to, quote, square up, and the other guy says the system is rigged and it's not worth trying, and I must steal and get it by any means necessary, even if I got to kill everybody on the block. Now we have people that think like that, and we just have to continue. We have to carry that moral code out to the end. Okay, some people are not ready to be in civilization. They have to be locked up, and many people get locked up and turn their life around. Malcolm X. But some people never gonna turn their life around. But my point is that's irrelevant to the movement. They will either catch up or they will weed themselves out of the gene pool. One or the other. But we can't keep talking about what are we gonna do as Black people and make the central argument how are we gonna get these people, the dysfunctional people, to wake up, because the dysfunctional people they're not determinate to what's going to happen with the race.
I want to ask you a question on something that you just said. Well, first, let me say this. I agree with you on, we need to get rid of the stereotype that anybody that's not some right-wing conservative is against entrepreneurship. Like, I know plenty of, I guess you would call them liberal-minded, or, people that's a little more left-leaning. I know a lot of people that are in that category that are very successful. I sat at tables with people that was, these are professional men and women, and they not living this broke lifestyle, but for some reason they still adopt this talking point that they victims. And even with the whole LeBron James thing, like, those people are the people that get on my nerves. I don't fault people for having different political views as me. Sometimes I get brushed off as some super cool conservative when really I don't get along with a lot of conservatives either once they get to know me. But the thing that I wanted to respond to that you mentioned was you said that for me to bring up the destructive elements of society, that's irrelevant. But I don't think it's irrelevant because, like I was saying, if you bring in jobs to the community or if you bring in resources to the community, they don't want that. You know what I'm saying? They're not necessarily against it. The Pookies and Ray Ray is not against it, but they not going to take advantage of it either. So, I mean, you saying that for me to bring up this point is irrelevant, but I'm also looking at the jobs being in the hood being irrelevant to the people who don't want them. And wait, this is the last thing I wanted to say. As far as them weeding themselves out of existence, that I can strongly disagree with that because you got people stringing them along. You got a lot of, and I hate to make this about women, but you got a lot of females that are constantly reproducing with the guys that I'm talking about. Or even some guys that's simping for those type of female, them thug life type chicks. Like it's always gonna be a working class person or a person that has made something of themselves and they keep that gene pool going on. It ain't gonna go out of existence. It's just gonna be upheld by the mamas and grandmas and the big mamas and Uncle Georges and stuff.
Well, I would say maybe I misspoke. I'm saying that making the plight of what's the word they call them, the disaffected, making the plight of the disaffected central to the progress of the race, I think that is flawed. That's what I'm saying is irrelevant. That's a fringe discussion. Okay. What happens with the Black community does not rest with what happens with that dysfunctional group, because because it's like we can look at the glass as either half full or half empty, but the facts show that we have the largest middle class than we've had probably ever.
Thanks.
So it's like, but because we want to focus on the poop, now I don't want to get into the poopy thing.
Yeah, I always end up saying that, but
because I don't even like using that, because that ends up what I don't like. I'm just going to deviate for this 1 second, because we all have different definitions of what that means. And what I don't like about I'm a college dropout, so let's get that straight. I'm also called the coon by liberals. Okay, when I start talking about business and some self-motivation stuff. All right, so I understand, and so we got a lot of outliers on both sides, and I seem to get along pretty well with the conservatives that are also pushed out from the conservatives. So we kind of, when we pull all these labels aside, we're pretty much saying the same thing. Okay, but I'm having a senior moment.
That's all good.
But we got to talk. When you talked about how we are basically we're gonna rob the store, we're gonna post up outside the store. You're right. But that's just going to have to change over time as we say, get on code. We got to fix the culture, because the culture is we got to do a lot of things at the same time. But but in the midst of all of this, a lot of Black folks, the data shows we are moving more into the middle class, and I prefer to look at the successes that we have now over time. These guys are going to turn around. Some, but
I respect what you're saying. In terms of looking at the glass half full instead of half empty.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that was it. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, so yeah, that's all I was saying, man. I ain't got no issue with you, man. I'm faithful.
Likewise,
stuff, man. I respect your point of view.
I appreciate it, and I respect yours. I just wanted to understand it, because sometimes from the chat, especially when it's coming up kind of slow on my end, I could read it and not really understand it.
Right, and it's good that we had prior conversations or whatever. Oh, yeah. So because that provides context. I'm not trolling. That.
Right, and I don't troll. I wouldn't just throw you in the label of the whole Hotep thing. Sometimes I say that comically or out of satire, but for example, this show I'm gonna be on tonight, some people will write them off as Hoteps and we was Kangs and all that type of stuff, but these are good brothers. These are actual friends of mine that I love and respect. They've been there for me through thick and thin. So it don't matter what our ideological differences are. I know they're good people. But I wanted to ask you something like, what are your thoughts in terms of like the protesting? Do you think anything positive would come from that? Because I'm in Chicago. Like last time I went to the Dan Ryan shutdown just to document it in person. I'm not I'm not even finna do that this time. I'm finna go out to Indiana somewhere and just enjoy my day off.
Okay, here's my. I got my. Let's see, I'm getting feedback from the YouTube channel, the YouTube page. Now I remember what I was trying to say. What I'm a link to what you're saying about the protest. Don't let me forget. But my issue with this Pookie label is that we think that the opposite of the Pookie is the college educated guy. No, blue collar is cool. Ain't nothing wrong with we got people that basically get into this class crap and put everybody that's blue collar, hard working blue collar in a Pookie category. No, for me, the division is a moral issue. It's a moral divide. That's what determines who's, you know, a Pookie and not whether you are, you can be rich and be a criminal and you a Pookie. You just a Pookie with money, a Pookie with a good job and status. You can be a cancer to your people. It don't matter how much money you got in your pocket.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not trying to vilify the postal worker, the police officer, the fireman, the truck driver, and on and on and on. These are the role models. So there's that. But on the protesting, despite my high voice, y'all, I am 5'4", 54 years old. Not 5'4", but 54 years old. And so I've been out there and protesting and all that. I'm telling you that crap is a waste of time. We done got off track on that, okay? When I know Jesse Jackson's got a bad name right now, but people need to study history. This brother was tying those protests to economic. It had an economic aspect to the protest, and a goal was defined in the beginning. And these protests resulted in jobs for us. Okay, this black middle class that we got, it came as a result of protests that was linked to something constructive and tangible that we could gain from it. Right now, we walk up and down the street just cause we mad. Okay, black folks, we lead the world in being against something. We know what we don't like, but you ask us what we stand for, we don't have a damn clue. So we have to get beyond just being reactionary and being, having a vision and saying what we stand for. Everybody else in the world looks at the world and they have an image of the world and their place in it, and they go out and enforce or impress that image on the world. Black folks, we just sit back and be a pawn for everybody else's plan. So we got to stop being reactionary. That's one. And so the whole bring businesses to the community that we talk about, or okay, fine, I can hear you. If it's dangerous, there's a certain element in the community that the brothers on the corner posting up outside their business. There's some brothers in that neighborhood that they respect enough to not just disrespect that person's business. But the way our value system is in our community, we say that you ain't shit unless you got a job working for a big white company downtown wearing a suit. And the guy that's running the corner store, these guys are making a lot of money.
Hey, what up with you fellas?
What's happening?
What's going on, King? Yeah, I got like 15 more minutes, but what's going on, King Sigma?
Oh man, I just now got done doing a quick run this morning. I saw that you was on. You only got 15 minutes left?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just got on here to get my thoughts on the whole bringing jobs to the black community, like my thoughts on it. Like I said, I'm not against it, but I just also recognize that not everybody wants a job, and I was kind of sharing some of my personal experiences with that.
I agree with that.
Are you referring to it? So that's a good topic. I'm sad that I missed it, man. But I was like up last night on one of Obsidian's podcast. So I was, I'm just now really getting started. But so what was your basic conclusion?
Oh, I was just saying that, there's gonna be an element of society or the black community that is not interested in the opportunities that we bring to the neighborhood. And I was really speaking on it more from the context of this protest is going on in Chicago today. They doing like a part 2 from the last one. The last one was led by Father Flagger on the South Side, and that was actually closer to the communities that they talking about as far as like the South Side. This time they want to kind of rock the boat up north by Wrigley Field, by the Cubs Stadium.
Can I read something to you?
I ain't hear you. What you say?
Can I read something to you? Because this kind of ties into what I was doing this morning. Because I just caught the end of what the brother that's on was saying, and what
if we can make it quick, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm really strongly for the idea that each black man has to decide for themselves what they're gonna do. A lot of people like to talk about what the next man is gonna do, what we should do, the so-called community should do. But when you actually sit them people down and talk to them about what they're doing, it's like instantaneous crickets, because they're not willing to discuss what they're actually contributing. It's like they're always looking for someone else to do it. So in my own life, I've taken those steps at each level, from high school, college, corporate America, to government, to now being self-employed. Do you realize that at each point, there was never anyone there to tell me to go in this direction or that direction? It was just my own inner desires and ambitions that led me there. So this morning, when I went for my run and got back, I was just writing something down. And I'm just going to read just a paragraph something I wrote myself. And it's just on my thoughts on, the man that's walking the save yourself black man path, because that's what I'm walking. And it says that the competent thinking black man is prepared to compete and not waiting around for anybody, but willing to work with any individuals or groups that can show evidence of mutual benefit to both sides. Another note I wrote down was, the SYSBM system believes in freedom of choice, association, and voluntary association based on mutual interest and benefit. The SYSBM man is interested in understanding other cultures and will exercise his rights to own and use a passport to enjoy the culture of the world. The SYSBM man places self-improvement above groupthink because he believes improvement starts with the individual. The SYSBM man is focused on mastering his physical health through proper nutrition intake and regular exercise. The SYSBM man rejects the slavery and Jim Crow stereotypes of black manhood. Wherever the SYSBM man goes, he creates a community of like-minded, positive, self-interested individuals. The SYSBM man symbol is freedom, like the endangered griffin vulture that is the highest flying bird ever recorded at 37,000 feet. I just want to hear what you got to think about that, because see, I'm coming at this from the standpoint, I'm not waiting around for no niggas, man.
Yeah, I want to respond to that.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
King, you got to mute your YouTube page.
Oh, okay. I thought my YouTube page is muted.
Yeah, I'm still hearing like an echo.
Let me just mute my mic. That's probably, maybe it's my mic.
Yo. Yeah, I'm still hearing it, but it's all right. Yeah, in response to what you read, like I've made that conversation with certain brothers, not all of them, but I talk to a lot of people when I listen to their arguments on solutions, because that's like a big word. That's like the knee-jerk reaction. I bring up certain points and they'll say, well, what's your solution? Or we need to start talking solutions. And I always tell them that is a solution. I've mentioned the red pill. I've mentioned save yourself black man. I've mentioned ear more to certain people, and it'll go either one end out the other, or it's not what they want to hear. But what I always say in response to them is solutions for who? Because I can tell you this is a solution for me. It's a solution for the individual, but not necessarily the collective. And if you're looking for solutions for the collective, that's not my interest. I'm not interested in saving the collective. That's what ends up making me the bad guy. But look, you know what? I'm gonna mention Save Yourself Black Man on this show that I'm gonna be on tonight. I got invited to a roundtable at WVON, and I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna say Save Yourself Black Man on the show tonight, just to spread the word and see what their response to that would be. But I'm telling y'all, like, that's definitely gonna make me the bad guy. But I'm happy to wear that shirt at this particular show.
Here's why you're the bad guy, Mark. You're the bad guy because if you're saying you're coming with an individual approach, and then if that's your outlook, what is the point of talking to other black men? or other people, period. Because at the moment you start reaching out to other people and trying to create an accord, you're talking community. So you can't preach individualism and this is to you, King. You can't say in there you mention individualism and then later on you start talking about community and impact on community.
Marcus.
I consider this is a community right now. This panel,
yep.
I mean, still individuals, but over time, as more individuals, keyword individuals, start doing their own thing and start looking out for their own self-interest. And what I really want to target is these young guys that's out here at these protests. These are the dudes that's jumping all in the police face, trying to get that picture on the news, on the newspaper the next morning and stuff. Like, these are the guys that are putting themselves at most risk. And if you start getting them to think a little differently, they'll start thinking for their own selfish interest first. But what I'm saying is, over time, that becomes a community in and of itself. It ain't the ideal community. It ain't the rosy, happy ending that everybody looking for. But to me, that's just being a realist.
Go ahead, King.
I guess what I would say is that I think your definition of community is so different than the actual traditional definition of community.
What's the traditional definition of community?
Hey, Dollar, I'll let you speak. Just give me 2 minutes, and I'll let you speak. Keep it on that level. But the community starts with the individual. When we look at human history, it started with someone somewhere deciding to move from wherever they started at, and they established some kind of home somewhere. Someone else saw that they were, making a home, and they were interested in making a home themselves. They exchanged ideas. They exchanged labor for his information. So the first person to build a house, the way that he was building it, he told someone else, but he didn't just tell him for fun. He told him because that man said, "I'll help you build this house if you teach me how to build a house." Those two created a community. Eventually, they wanted to replicate themselves, so they went searching for women, or women found them. That's where the community started. So the basis of a community starts with mutual self-interest. I think you're confusing individualism with monkism. Those are not the same thing. You cannot live in a civil society, an advanced society, and be 100% on your own. I got a bowl of oatmeal that's looking back at me. Do you realize how many people was involved in the making of this oatmeal getting to me this morning? I have no idea. Like, this is the company that made it was Quaker Oats, right? So Quaker Oats is a corporation that was started by most likely an individual man who eventually was like a farmer of oats or something like that. And he sold the company to interested other parties who were financiers and businessmen who then work with farmers to get this bowl of oatmeal to me. It may have been 1,000 people involved in getting this one damn bowl of oatmeal to me, but they did it because it was in their interest to make money and to promote whatever their agenda was. And I bought this oatmeal because it was in my interest to eat this oatmeal. Individualism doesn't mean that you're going to go on an island, live alone. No man is free on an island by himself, because you're still within a society of dangerous individuals, okay, and dangerous groups. So me as an individual, I'm my best case scenario for me personally is in an interdependent situation that maximizes my own skill set and maximizes the resources of other people to the best benefit for me. Whereas what you're talking about is complete independence, where I was to go to an island, build a cabin among nature. I got to do my own water. I got to grow my own food. I don't think that's an efficient way to live. It's more efficient for me to get a skill set within the system that I'm in that allows me to get the most money that I can get, which in our society, money is the basis of power, and so is information. So information and money is the basis of power in this American system that we have. So it's to my benefit to get the most money that I can, to have the most powerful interdependent situation I can. So that's my definition. But go ahead, Dollar.
Okay, yeah, I disagree with your definition in the beginning, the when you started wrong in the first 30 seconds. It's not it's groups of people, it's man versus environment right from the beginning. If you started your example with a house, okay, I'm gonna start my example with survival against the lions and wild animals are killing us. Okay, so man, from a common need, a common threat, we form groups right there to join forces against a common threat. A community starts right there, and the motivation is survival. Okay, so once that group forms, and this is men or humans all over the planet form groups because man is tribal. Okay, so it's tribal. You form groups. The groups has value system, and the whole point of the value system is perpetuation of the group, survival. And that, you know, when they come together, you call that a community. And at the base of that is that culture, and inside that culture is the values that promote survival. And so you can't get away from being in a group, being a part of a tribe, and the requirement to have a code, a value system. Okay, as individuals under your method, you say go out into the world as individuals. You're going to interface everyone else in the world that is fully aware that they are a member of a tribe, and they really they understand that you're their enemy. So because you come standing there as an individual, and they know they have backing behind them, you don't have any basis to any leverage to form any equitable relationship with anybody on the planet unless you have some kind of community or tribal connection behind you.
Absolutely incorrect, because see, my definition came from sociology. See, the difference between your definition and mine comes from...
mine came from sociology also.
Okay, so let me read something to you. And everyone in the chat, and Marcus, you can make a determination. This is from Sociology 101, the basic textbook. Family is basic unit of society.
You just proved my point right there.
Hold on.
Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna be quiet, but go ahead.
The family unit, principally a man and a woman, that's just two people, living together in harmony and peace, is and always will be the basic social organization or unit of any society. The relationship alone provides stability in a sexual, emotional, intellectual, and social way as no other can. So when that individual man finds that individual woman, that's the beginning of a community with them two people. I just said to you that it's about interdependence and not independence. I agree with you. A man living on an island by himself in a shack is not going to build a community. He's a man of one. But all he needs is one other person to start a community. A community starts with just two people. And usually it's between a man and a woman. I was giving you the family as a basic unit of society. Whereas when people talk about the community, they're talking about masses of people that they never met, that they don't have the self-interest with. The community is based on equal interest. Me as a thinking black man, me as someone has worked through the corporate world and the government world and now self-employed, my interest may not be the same as yours, Dollar, or the next man's, or whoever's in that group. Groups are formed by people that have the same self-interest, but it starts with the individual's personal code and the way that they decide to move through life and who they attract and who they work with.
Are you sure that I think I know that you're making an assumption that when other people say community, that they mean what you just said. No, they mean people, like-minded people. That's what it means. You're right. And so when other people, if you want to say we Hotep or say community, we don't mean everybody 100%.
Hold on.
Whatever that common denominator or sympathetic value system you can have with whatever number of people, you start right there. You start with whatever, and hopefully it grows. Okay,
now here I'll say this. You have not participated in some of the conversations that I have in the last month or two with Hotep communists in the black manosphere. We're having conversations where Hotep communists are telling every black man that he has a responsibility to mate up with an American black woman that the Hotep collective chooses. Marcus has participated in these conversations. Many people that are listening have heard these conversations where people are talking about forced monogamy, dick policing, forcing you to compelled association.
I accept your presentation, representation of that. I've heard that confused too. And to those Hotepers, I would say, I hate saying that damn word. I'm just going to be real brief.
Let me bring Yesh on real quick. I see Yesh Jonas in the building. What's going on, Yesh?
Hey, Marcus, can Dollar finish his thought? I wanted to hear his last thought on that because he's someone that can speak from that position of what the Hotep. I want to hear what he had to say.
Hey, Dollar, finish your thought. Yes, we kind of they was working something out, and I want you to say what you want to say, yes. But then while I got you on here, if you could bring up that philosophy topic that you brought up in your own chat, I really want to get people to look deeper into that. But go ahead, Dollar.
There is another divide among black people in America that even split. It's even in the groups that you would call Hotepper, okay? And that's this issue of Pan-Africanism. So you can't say for those people, for that, if I was on that panel with another quote unquote pro-black, I would have opposed that person, because you can't start talking about black people and then limit it to Black America. Okay, because I'm a Pan-Africanist, so I don't see nothing wrong with you traveling the world. Okay, and so to that person, they would be isolated. I don't even think that the pro-black person that's pro-black within an American context, they are the minority. They are the minority. That's a minority view. Because we were here before America. America may not always be here. We still gonna be here. We can't be that much daggone American, and that's another issue we got to get over. It's great that we're here. We make the best of where we're here. We're all over the world. And I've seen, yes, you know, brother, I've seen his video. He's making that same point. We living all over the world surviving. We got to get out the matrix mindset of being black defined as within an American context. Because we box ourselves in that when America dies, now what? We don't have no identity no more?
So when you say we, who are you referring to exactly? We, when you say that?
Black people.
Which black people?
Anybody who thinks that they're black. If you say that, if you black as night and you say you're not black, I ain't talking about. I don't mean you, but for the person that's black as night that said they're not black, then I ain't talking about them.
I guess
anybody that requires me to define that word, I'm not talking about them.
What about like you know, black people from other ethnic backgrounds or other countries or whatnot? They speak different languages. They got their own identity from their own relative respective countries.
Are you speaking about black Americans? That's what I'm just kind of clear. Are you speaking, when you say black, are you speaking of those that are from Africa, or are you speaking of black American population? That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah, I'm speaking from my Pan-Africanist mindset.
Now, what's your definition of Pan-Africanism? Because I want to get a clarity on that as well. What is your definition of Pan-Africanism?
People of African descendant from the original people of the world, black people, from the continent of Africa, people that see ourselves as interconnected or need to be interconnected today. And that's in trade and, you know, friendships, alliances of every sort. In the most simplest definition, that's it. It does not require moving back to Africa. You can stay where you are and still have an interconnectedness with other African originated people from, you know, dispersed African originated people.
Okay, I got you.
So you can take your product and you can live in your state of Chicago or, you know, Illinois or whatever, and you can sell or do export business to African people or black people, whatever you want to call us, Afro-Brazilian, Afro-Caribbean, all over the world, and they can buy your products and we can buy ours, and we can strengthen our economic position everywhere we are in the world. That's the Pan-Africanism I was taught.
Hey, King, if you care to respond to that real quick, go ahead, and then I want to bring Yes on because I got to get out of here in a minute.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I've been a person that's always had like strong Pan-African views myself, but I just come in it from the standpoint that's probably different. I don't talk in terms of we ever, because I kind of came up, you know, through like Mr. Neely Fuller, Dr. Francis Cress-Welsing, Dr. Claude Anderson, people like that. And one of the things that I got from them, more than anything that I got from them, is that all change starts with the individual. Because see, what happens when you're pointing fingers at other people, you have to ask yourself, what am I doing in my own house? Is my bedroom clean? Is my debts paid off? Am I doing the research? Am I reading the correct books? Am I applying the knowledge to get results? If you're not doing it yourself, then it's just a waste of time to me, because no one's going to want to like work with you until they see that you've gotten practical results from what you're actually speaking. And we get a lot of that amongst the Black American population, a lot of people that are great at, you know, speaking about things, but when you actually get down to the nitty-gritty of getting things done, they make no progress. And if you don't believe me, just Google black men ain't shit, black men don't build shit, black beta male coons, and you will see that the what I'm hearing from a lot of the American black women is that they feel that black men don't do anything that actually gives pragmatic results besides make a bunch of bastard babies. So I come from it from the standpoint, I'm not going to join the brigade of talking. I'm going to get with like-minded brothers that are going in a progressive direction that can offer me something, and I'm going to offer them something. And we just going to build where we at, just like escaped slaves did. They didn't worry about talking to the house nigga. They didn't worry about talking to the field niggas. When it was time to go, they might have told one person if that, and they were out. And then wherever they landed at, they started building homes. They started building agriculture. They started building from there. I'm on that page where I'm just going to build wherever the hell I'm standing at. That's all I got to say about that.
Now, functionally speaking, you and I are not
Hey,
really
Dom, wait,
opposed.
let me bring Yes on real quick because I know he's been waiting for a minute. And it's called deviology. That's the subject that he spoke on the other day. Deviology, bro. I'm telling you that when you spoke on that, that had sparked a flame in my brain, bro. And it was something I already knew of. I just didn't have a word for it. But go ahead, Yes.
Oh, what's going on, King? What's going on, Dollar?
What's up, sir?
What's happening, bro?
Nah, I just did a breakdown. I know I'm not smart as King and Dollar, whatever like that. I know I just do my little simple points and I just leave it at that because
You ahead in ways, man.
so many have discussed so many. Thanks a lot, Chief. So many have discussed so many things, but the reason why I'm saying people are not concerned with the micro. People are only concerned with the macro. And you have to, in a way, I agree with both of them. You have to start with who you are and what you are, and then you build out. And sometimes people are good at talking where they could get the whole and start a movement with a lot of people. So it's either way, depending on what people you're talking to or what, but you can't have community without culture. You just can't. You get what I'm saying? So what type of culture are we representing? What do we have? What do we listening to? What are we putting in our bodies? What are we putting in our minds? That's where I come in. And deviology is the path of removing micro rather than macro. You get what I'm saying? With releases stress. We got to start with these small stresses. And these small stresses are the things that are harming people, is what I'm finding out. They're like, oh, I'm worried about what somebody's saying. Well, you can't just tell people to stop worried about what somebody's saying. You have to show them like, listen, I don't worry about it, so I don't give a damn. You get what I'm saying? And then when they start seeing that, they say, damn, that's working for him. Let me try that. You see what I'm saying? Or you might or you might worry about like holidays. For instance, what I got on in the video. You might worry about holidays. Say, oh, no, there's nothing wrong with me buying one gift. And then one gift over the span of 10 years turns into 30 gifts. You get what I'm saying? Now you have 30 people to worry about. So it went from worrying about one person to now you got somebody creating babies or something like that. And you cool with them. You say, damn, I got to get my god sister. Now you everybody's godfather. Now you all of this. You get what I'm saying? All of that in the quote unquote community has destroyed the minds of many men. So I'm telling you, like, when you don't worry about or focus on that micro, it will turn into macro, but you have to focus on it. And I was saying in my video that, again, everybody's starting where they are, but we got to start with brotherhood. And there's certain books out there, certain stuff that they learn how to get people to worry about everything else except who they are. I was reading something just now when y'all was talking from practice is the practice of leadership from a book, and it deals with sociology, it deals with philosophy, with Harvard, and they said facilitating purposeful action. Some emotions inhabit agency expressed as purposeful action, whereas others facilitate it. Exploring the relationship between emotions and purposeful action, political scientist George Marcus points two of the neural psychological systems, right? Surveillance and disposition. Okay, those are two he's focusing on, surveillance and disposition. Our surveillance system compares what we expect to see with what we do see. Tracking anomalies that, when observed, translate into anxiety. Without this emotional cue, Marcus argues we operate out of habit. When we do feel anxiety, we say to ourselves, hey, pay attention. There's a bear in the door. Our dispositional system, right, on the other hand, operates along to a continuum from depression to enthusiasm, or as we might also describe it, from despair to hope. You see what I'm saying? That's how a lot of us operate. And he's breaking it down. I could go into what he's saying and go into his whole argument of that. But we see a lot of that. You get what I'm saying? We see a lot of where we lose focus on certain things when it don't fit our narrative. And I can go into why we I broke that all down in the video, so y'all got to go back. Why we all march and why we do all of this stuff and why we lead off emotion and why we lead off of hope. You get what I'm saying? It's all destructive. So I'm saying in deviology, in order to remove these stresses and these toxins out of us or whatever like that, We got to actually look. And the only way we look is to talk about these micro habits, these micro stresses, our inner, you get what I'm saying? We always looking at it from a whole. And that's why I sort of like lean into both of y'all. But King, he really hitting it many parts where he's saying, because we have to focus on us. I couldn't focus on me and then make a video, right, and put it out to the public if I didn't say, yo, what the hell are you doing? You get what I'm saying? What the hell are you doing? What do you focus on? How are you eating? How are your emotional makeup? How are you affecting people around you by your certain disposition, by your certain activity? You get what I'm saying? So I had to break me down, and now I could go out and tell other fellas, like, listen, deviology works. You deviate away from micro things and focusing on macro things. You get what I'm saying? Later, but you're all of those small things. Again, the dot effect. You take you go in the dark, right? Which is what a lot of us are doing in our community, quote unquote. But you take a dot. You take a piece of paper, right? You take a marker. You start dotting that paper in the dark, dotting the paper, and say, oh, I'm just doing this. And then by the time you know it, the daylight come in, or you turn on the light the next day, you got a whole paper full of dots. And at that point, you're not going to see the actual white that's in the paper, or orange, or whatever color paper you're using. You're not going to see that color. It's going to be covered by all of those dots. And I'm saying that's happened to us. We're worried about everything outside of us, putting all these stresses and these dots on our heads, right? And then we worried about the latest car. We worried about all of the basic shit. But we also worried about what people think of us. That's the major part we're not focused on. So I had to destroy that. I said, yo, I'm not worried about what nobody think about me, but I'm not out here saying I'm all of this, I'm all of that. But I'm just focused on me. How can I better me? And that'll work to the collective. So that's what I found in deviology, man. It's just like, again, y'all see the video I break down. I got into it more. Right now I'm at work, so I had to go back to work. So my mind is all over the place. So forgive me if I'm not explaining it correctly.
I think you explained it very well. You said that basically, in summary, that deviology deals with starting at the micro and expanding to the macro.
Yeah.
And I just agree with that. That's my whole point, because like I said, I started out in the Hotep school. You know, I was a person that when I started on this path of self actualization, I started off reading like slave narratives from Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, stuff like that. And that kind of led me to more of what we quote unquote call the Hotep leanings that have kind of been like bastardized by these YouTube stars. But originally those came from like Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, and Mr. Neely Fuller. But then what happened is that what I'm seeing is that a lot of what we on YouTube call the Hotep communists, they're taking small elements of those people's theories, and then they're trying to monetize them by creating catchy slogans, catchy mottos, and they're giving it to people, their audience, who are not very well-read people, who are not going to sit down and do the
exactly. Wait, King, real quick. Can I interrupt you, please? Real quick. All right. Listen to this. Social movement leaders mobilize the emotions that make agency possible. When we experience the world as it is in deep dissonance with values that define the world as it should be, we experience emotional dissonance, right? Attention only resolvable through action. Organizers call this agitation. For example, because I depend on my job, I fear upsetting the boss. And then in parentheses, they got teacher, parent, employer, right? However, this may conflict with my self-respect if the boss violates my dignity. One person may become angry and challenge her boss. Another may swallow her pride, and another may resist the organizers who point out the conflict. Any of these options is costly, but one may serve a person's interest better than the other. Damn.
Wow, that's exactly what I meant, because that's why I left 9 to 5 work, because I had moral questions and ethical questions about working for people that I didn't consider to be very intelligent, that I didn't consider to be very moral. But within that dependent situation, because what I was talking to Dollar Bill about is that when we look at the categories of independence versus interdependence versus dependence, there's a curve that forms. And when you talk about the state of dependence, that's the state of relying on or being controlled by others that you depend on for like your financial support or security, whatever. And I think like a lot of American Black people are in a very dependent situation on the same system that they rail against. So they rail against white supremacy. They rail against the dominant group, and they rail against this or that, but they don't take the steps at a micro level to truly begin dismantling that system. And that's why you have these guys or these women that come along with these great sounding points that when you start to scratch below the surface, they really give you no practical results for your own life. Because naturally a person will want to move out of the dependent situation if they consider themselves fighting against a system that they oppose, and they would at a minimum start to try to build an interdependent situation with other people that they consider part of their group. So in terms of responding to white supremacy, we talk about, you know, black skinned people or American black people. So you're going to see that Marcus is someone who drives trucks, and then you might be a guy that's doing finance, so you don't know nothing about truck driving, but you know, you might have the bag, you know what I'm saying? You got the money that can be used to invest in a trucking company. So then you got someone like Man of Tomorrow who owns a trucking company. Now those three people already have the basis for mutual self-interest, and they have a community based on their profits. So Marcus being a truck driver, Man of Tomorrow owning a truck company, and someone like Dollar who said that he's a finance guy. See, that's how I look at it. That's how I build from the micro to the macro. So that's just my opinion.
Well, it really is from the macro. The macro creates the micro. Okay, I don't care if we're talking about people or the stock market or global economy. The macro creates the micro. You don't have people are not born one at a time with a clean slate and freedom to create their own mind and their own values. You come out the womb, the government or the society, the dominant society has an agenda, an operating system for your brain already prepared. You don't get a choice. You turn on the television, you get in that operating system. You're required to go to school, you're going to get that operating system, okay? And any community that's not a part of that power group, black people, if we are right in our thinking, as Neely Fuller would say, we would have our own code to combat the operating system that others are trying to put in us. So it's when you have that culture with the proper values or operating system, that's what allows individuals to be to come forward and not start at zero. Okay, we don't do this all one at a time. So I understand when you talked about, just understand in 1982, I was a student at Howard University, and Frances Welsing taught at Howard. She lives in DC, a couple of blocks from Howard. So I know I don't know those people individually, but I've seen them in person at 18 years old. All of these videos that y'all are seeing on YouTube is shit I saw in real time. So I understand all of that you're talking about. And I understand that it's my generation that didn't teach the millennials shit. And that's why we're having conversations about things now that should have been resolved 30 years ago.
I guess I want to take a break. Could you break?
I got to get up out of here in a minute.
Yeah. Okay,
anybody go ahead and anybody. First, I want to say thanks to everybody on the panel and in the chat for joining. On notice, everybody on the panel, if y'all got any final words, anything you want to say before we wrap it up.
My final thought would just be that I'm going to stand in my position and say that it starts at the micro. Your code begins with the kind of household you grew up in. If you grew up around men and women of a certain kind of quality, a certain kind of ethical code, that's going to be where your first code starts. And as you reach the age of self-awareness, you begin to develop a code based on when you get out in the world. And I think that it starts with the individual. And I just say to those that believe that it starts with the group, good luck. But I'm just going to keep rolling my individual path because it's working for me. So,
in my closing words, I would say that King and we're going to be building some more on this. And I'm going to lead him to the discovery that line between micro and macro, it's further out than he thinks it is. It's not, the family is already, once you say family, that man and woman came from other people. They came from a community that had value systems. They were in an environment. And so they were already impacted and shaped a particular way. So that's macro right there.
Well, Marcus, thanks a lot, King. Dollar, again, if y'all want to hear more about deviology and the real video, go to my page. If I can plug that real quick, Marcus, because I don't want to do that on your platform.
Description and in the chat. So, if y'all watching this on a replay, you should be able to click the link in the description.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot. Well, I do a breakdown on it. Like I really go in it on that channel. I'm working right now, but I just want to join in and say that it is a vast amount of problems. But if we start with the small, it'll show you where a lot of this stuff has. But it's been discussed for years. It's gonna keep being discussed. I just come in. I really stay on my lane. But dealing with as far as brotherhood, we got to deal with one brother at a time. You get what I'm saying? Whether it starts from me, I'm working on myself. If I can pull another brother up with me, then I'm going to do that. So one at a time. So in a way, I agree with both of the brothers.
We all agree on that.
Yeah. So, but thanks a lot, fellas. Thanks for listening.
Save yourself, black man. That's what I say. Save yourself, black man.
And if Yes or King want to fire up a channel, I'll be there. If you want to fire up or continue this discussion on your channel, we can do it.
Yeah, I'm about to be in traffic, so if y'all do go live, I'll tune in on anybody else chat.
If Yes is the content creator, but so I don't create content. So if Yes wants to do that, I'll be glad to join and listen to more of it.
I'm already a subscriber to Yes, so I didn't click the bell, and if he does it, I'll be there.
But okay, thanks a lot. I'll let y'all know in 5 minutes.
I might go live a little later at this radio station. That's gonna be later tonight, like 5 or 6 p.m. Chicago time, Central Standard Time. And y'all can get an idea of some of the people that, I mean, they got different people, so I don't even know who all to expect there. But in terms of the people at the protest, like that's really what I started this live on. I'm not going to the protest. I'm just gonna avoid the traffic. I ain't even gonna be bothered with the city, but I will be in the city to go to that radio station.
All right, Marcus. Shout out to you. Shout out to all y'all. Peace out, y'all.
Hey,
appreciate y'all, man. I'll go live a little later.
All right.